In the history of watchmaking, the Zenith Defy is an important, if not underrated, watch. And this particular one is a very important watch. Or at least, to me it is. I've long been a fan of Zenith. I mean, as a watch brand, it may not have the universal recognition of Rolex or Breitling or Tag Heuer for those with only a casual interest in watches, but to a proper watch geek like me, never mind Frank Mueller, I think it's Zenith that really deserves the title of Master of Complications. In 1969, its El Primero chronograph was the first automatic chronograph. I mean, El Primero literally translates as the first, even though it didn't go into production until a year later, by which time Seiko, Heuer, Hamilton and Breitling all had automatic chronographs on the market. It's crazy to think that in 1969 we could put a man on the moon, and yet we'd only just invented the automatic chronograph, even though watch and clockmaking had been happening for hundreds of years. The El Primero chronograph movement was so highly respected that in 1984, Zenith signed a deal with Rolex to supply the chronograph movements for its Daytona, and it continued to do so for over a decade. But the Zenith I want to talk about today isn't an El Primero or even a chronograph. But guys, before we get into it, just a quick reminder that if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do me a huge favour and take a second to hit that subscribe button now. You see, the Zenith Defy is just a simple three-hand watch with a date, but for Zenith, and for the market at the time, it was a hugely revolutionary design. With its angular case, 14-sided bezel, and semi-integrated bracelet, the A3642 is what we'd now consider to be a Genta-esque design. But Gerald Genta hadn't even picked up his pencil to sketch the design for the Royal Oak until several years after this one was released. And while the design might not look all that revolutionary by today's standards, in 1969, when this was released, there was nothing else like it. But that angular, industrial look to the design wasn't just all about the aesthetics. It was built like a tank. And I'm not referring to the Cartier. So much so that Zenith marketed it as the Coffre Fort, which is the French name for a safe or vault. It came on this distinctive ladder-style bracelet made by Gay Frère. In those days, most bracelets were made by specialist manufacturers. Very few were made in-house, and Gay Frère was reputed to be the best. They supplied all of the most prestigious brands. Both the iconic Nautilus and the Royal Oak bracelet designs come from Gay Frère. And in the 1990s, the company was acquired by Rolex. Powering the A3642 is Zenith's 2552 PC movement, which is 4 Hz, and it's got a 46-hour power reserve, which was pretty respectable back then. Now, I'd love to know what you think in the comments, but for me, I think the design of this original Zenith Defy has really stood the test of time. And I don't think I'm alone, because in 2022, Zenith reissued this watch as the Zenith Defy Revival. While it uses a much more modern movement, and superluminova instead of tritium lume, the designers at Zenith were so keen to ensure that the Revival was a faithful reproduction of the original, that they actually 3D scanned one of these vintage pieces. Now, I love the Defy Revival. I mean, I've talked about it on other videos, but I love this original vintage one even more. You see, by the time this video goes out, I'm going to be celebrating my 50th birthday. I mean, Can't believe that I'm 50 already. I've certainly got a few greys coming, especially in the beard. If anyone knows, tell me in the comments, but I'm not sure why your beard and your chest hair goes grey first. Anyway, when my family said that they wanted to club together to buy me something special to mark my half-century on the planet, I knew exactly what I wanted. And I'm very proud to say that this ZENITH Defy A3642 is mine. I originally wanted one from my birth year of 1974, but when this example from 1970 came up, with its Gay Frere ladder bracelet and this beautiful cappuccino dial, I just had to have it. And it's actually the first vintage watch that I've ever owned. I do tend to like my watches to be box fresh. You know, I do tend to baby them. But this one, yeah, it's got a few battle scars here and there. But I love the fact that it's had a life before me. I mean, maybe several lives and several different owners. Although the guy I bought it from did tell me that it used to belong to his father. At first I thought the crown had been replaced by one from a later model, because you see it has this kind of square Zenith logo that I thought had been introduced later into the 1970s. But a bit of Google research told me that Zenith actually introduced this logo onto the crown midway through 1970, so there's every possibility that it's original. And while the ladder bracelet that this one came on was intact, which is pretty rare, after 50 plus years they do feel a bit delicate, so I actually put it on this brown leather strap, and I think it really suits that coffee-coloured dial. So while the original Defy was an important watch for Zenith, this one, my 50th birthday watch, is an important watch for me. It's one of the only ones that'll never leave my collection. Alongside my Hoya Monaco that my wife bought me over a decade ago. And there's the Bamford Monaco. You know, the one I filmed a video about with George Bamford. But guys, I'd love to know what you think of vintage watches, and if you've got a watch that's got a special place in your collection. So please do drop me a comment down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And guys, I'll see you on the next one.